is some innovation that's happening to us possibly. And we've all seen the Terminator, I'm sure. And I'm going to give a little bit of indication that maybe we're a little closer to the Terminator than maybe we think we are. For those that were with us yesterday, it's a little bit of a repeat, but it's still a pretty entertaining topic as we have when we're here. We've talked a lot about skills over the last couple of days and skills that need to be enhanced. Mark talked about innovation just now. One of the biggest things that's coming for us right now as we look at the future skills needed for IT leaders and really for all leaders in healthcare. It doesn't matter if it's the digital CEO or digital CFO, or in this case really the digital CIOs and our vendor partners that are out there. We're going to have to up our game, and in particular in the world of innovation. But as we've surveyed our members, which we have members in 51 countries around the world, and we've spent time with them, and we ask them what's really bothering them. Yes, cybersecurity. It haunts them every single night, and they worry about it. But what we're starting to hear now is it's this really advanced next level of generation of technology that's starting to get their interest now. Whether it's artificial intelligence or neural network managing or some of these other big buzzwords that are up here. And I have to admit, we really didn't know what that meant. Some of these things were a little foreign to us, so fortunately we have a lot of smart people in our organization, so we started tapping them and saying, let's try to find out kind of what really the current state is. Maybe not all the knowledge and really deep understanding of this, but where are we at in this process? Is this 5 years out? Is this 10 years out? Is this 50 years out? Have we been working on this for a week, 2 years, 50 years, 100 years? Where are we at in this process? And it really came down to the fact that as we really researched this, we realized in healthcare, and Mark's absolutely right, we need to innovate, but not at the pace we've been doing, which is glacial at best. We need to innovate at revolutionary paces right now, because we can't evolutionarily change our way into the major transformations we need, or to, as Arvind would put this program together, revolutionarily change this program that we need. And part of this is understanding that there has been major revolutions in our world economy, in particular over the last couple hundred years. And when these major revolutions occur, it's not the technology themselves, but how they're applied that creates great gain and improvement in the industry. Or in the economy as a macro level whole. It wasn't because we had steam power that magically steam power changed something, it's how somebody used it. No different than the fact that we've been in this period of CPU-based, automation, computer-based for decades now. And it wasn't that itself changed things, but how it's applied. There are many examples that are out there. Just to think about Uber as an example. And I'm already talking about robots, and it's freaking me out that this robot over here is moving on us. All right, that's just freaky. I'm not doing this, just so you know. But now we're really entering into what we would argue is this next revolution that's really coming. That the concepts of AI technology really already apply. CPUs already apply. Everything else already applies. It's now how it's going to be applied that's going to radically change our worlds. And part of it is understanding change models that occur. And almost everything we can look at follows this concept of the lily pad theory, which is technology itself is doubling and moving at a very fast pace. And the concept here is a lily pad, or a pond is covered in lily pads. It starts empty, divides every single day. By the end of 30 days, it's full. So it's dividing every single day into more and more and more. It's doubling its capacity. We're seeing that today. The reality is that's what's happening in technology. But if it's dividing every day into and multiplying by double every single day, when is that pond half full? Well, it's really not even half full till the 29th day, which means it's quarter full on day 28. It's 12.5% full on day 27, which means in this curve that you see up here, you actually don't see much change for a long, long period of time. It's actually fairly invisible to us. And that's really what's happening with us, this concept of AI and advanced intelligence that's occurring around us. The robots are really there, we just don't know it yet. At least that's a premise to throw out. We've seen this before with cell phones. Some of you actually recognize that really big phone on the side, when the reality today, even just this last couple weeks, last months, the iPhone 10 is out. But even the concept of the small phone, the first iPhone, it's only been around for 10 years. Even though cell phones have been around really since the late 70s, early 80s. First commercial models in the early 80s. So we're seeing this happen. The same model even follows wealth and how governments work. This model works for just about everything. You don't see the change until the change is right in front of you and massive things happen to you. And science fiction itself tells us amazing, amazing things about what we think about things that will occur based on today's concepts, constrained totally by our current thinking, not by future thinking. And the fact that even you, I'm sure, and I'm not going to call on everybody in the audience out of time constraints, but I'll ask you to think about your favorite robot from TV or movies. We did this yesterday, and most of them got that right. So I'll go through a few of these really quickly, because a few of your favorite robots are actually already on here. For some of you that played games as kids, this is the Rock'em Sock'em robot. Not necessarily a real robot, but at least it enters our communication, our thought. The Jetsons robot. Many of us saw it on cartoons. This is, I think it's Robot 6. There's other ones that are like this one on movies. This is the Kit Car. Many of you remember that from Knight Rider. This one is from Lost in Space. It had a very clever robot name called Robot. This is Roby the Robot, for those of you that are UK familiar. Energizer Bunny, not really a robot, but it's always on every list. Now we're starting to get into things that are a little bit more interesting. This is Data from Star Trek. A major even thought process change in TV, and why is that? The first humanoid robot that had human emotions on TV. It was no longer just a mechanical process, it was actually emotion-based. This is Hal from the Space Odyssey, who was worried about death, self-awareness. Terminator, willing to give up his own life for a human and a friend. Again, robots changing in our TV mindset. All of you remember Star Wars, I'm sure. Probably most of your favorite robots were Star Wars ones. And then even as of recently, almost every kid's favorite robot, besides the one coming down the line right now, and that's from Transformers. Interestingly, almost no adults say this one when I do a survey on it. Almost all of them give the Star Wars ones. That tells you our generational shifts that are there. The argument is, and actually we steal this from Intermountain, is kind of a concept so we can really understand that most technology isn't about technology at all. It's about people and process, mostly about people. But a little argument as we start thinking about the future of the fact that robots will be there in our world, that maybe some of the people are not going to be there anymore. Maybe we're actually going to replace them with the robots themselves. Maybe it will be literally technology. It's not the technology you think today of a computer or a software program, but literally physically a robot like the one in the middle of the room that will replace actual human interaction as we move forward. Because we've been working on this for a long, long time. Actually, artificial intelligence has been worked on since 1956, when the first group of physicians, or doctors, got together at Dartmouth to actually talk about what robots could do. And one of the answers was replace humankind, even the way back in 1956. So think about that curve again that I put up there. We've been at the beginning of this curve since 1956. This isn't the cool word AI that you're just hearing about now. We've been working on it for over 50 years, over 60 years. And we've been working on it through all these different periods of time. Many of you remember when IBM Watson beat the best Jeopardy contestants of all time and beat them handily. And actually, the two contestants afterwards even admitted they cheated to get the ones right they did. Because as soon as it would start reading the question, they'd actually hit the button, even though they hadn't heard the whole question, because it was their only chance to beat IBM Watson. Because Watson was trained and programmed to not answer the question until after they heard the whole question. So they actually cheated, and they probably would have got none of them right. In artificial intelligence, some of you are old enough to remember, this is Deep Blue, another IBM computer system. The first time a computer system could actually outthink a human being, in this case, chess, which was not even thought possible, because chess requires neural networking and understanding. Even though that computer didn't emulate that, they were able to do it. Interesting, at the exact same time, there were computer programs that could accurately predict the onset of breast cancer. And we haven't even used those same programs since all the way back then. Now, many of you may know what this is. I think Mark actually referenced this. This is actually an autonomous car. I actually rode in the first time a self-driving car earlier this year. It was probably one of the most freaky things I've ever done in my life. We actually got in the car in Sydney, Australia. We got in the car, the doors closed. It was actually self-closing doors. We did have a driver. We pulled away about half a block away. The driver turned around and started talking to us while we were driving down the road. Completely freaked me out. I started yelling at the driver, trying to figure out what was going on, why he wasn't driving, and he said, no, this car will drive us all the way to the airport on its own. And we said, what do you do? Well, we're here when the car doesn't work right. And I said, then you better pay attention to the road, not to me on this process. It's so foreign to us. And we actually got exposure to self-driving cars like this one here, where literally there is no driver in the car at all. There's literally, the car itself can drive. They've got them working in California and several other places in the world. Why is this such a big deal? I'll give you just one statistical thought process on this. And that is, just in the United States alone, 63% of all adult male jobs are involved in transportation of some kind. Flying planes, driving trucks, using trains, whatever the case may be. 63% of our jobs are dependent on operating a vehicle of some kind. What if that is no longer the case? The first payload of trucks driving large trucking devices in California without a driver at all in the car occurred last month. It's going to happen sooner than you think. And somebody said something to me a while back that I hadn't even thought of. They said, and I don't have any grandchildren today, even though I have adult children, so you can assume at least 16 years out, maybe 17 years out, if I had any kids today, or they had any kids today, your grandchildren will never drive a car. Your grandchildren will never drive a car. Deep thought for us as we move forward. Deep learning, the Google system that's tried to rival, obviously, IBM's DeepMind. And so as we look at this, the first time a neural network-based game, in this case called AlphaGo, requires brain capacity equivalent to a neural network, and they beat the world champion in this time and time again. It's happening faster than we can think. Why is this important? The picture right next to it is the equivalent, or not the equivalent, pictures of blood flow mapping in a brain. And now that same computer system can map accurately the blood flow that used to require a physician 5 to 8 minutes to do the same equivalent task. It's now FDA approved to do this. They can do it just as accurately, not more accurately, just as accurately as a physician. The difference is a physician takes 5 to 8 minutes, the computer takes 2 seconds. Will we get replaced? Maybe, maybe not. At least augmented, that's for sure. You've all seen these kind of curves that are out there. And that is, if we don't change with the curves, and we don't adapt quickly, they will replace us. So we have to be proactive in thought. 2 things that are out there, obviously. Netflix and Blockbuster, both started at the same time. Both were in the business of getting you movies on CDs. Blockbuster, 1 year, highest rate profits, 18 months later bankrupt. Didn't change. Netflix, going broke, sending people CDs in the mail, now one of the largest media companies in the world. They changed with the curves and they changed fast. And that's what's going to be required for us to stay up with AI. This is the Q. This is a home lab device. It will be able to do most home lab devices starting next year. For about $4, you can do most of them in your home and send them to your physician yourself, replacing almost all outpatient labs. By the way, the device costs $199. Each lab test $4, total kit $400. It's going to change the world that we have around us. This, we've all seen this on the left. If you ever watch Star Trek, that's the tricorder. It was a fictional thing on TV. It comes out next year, for real. Well, the lack of a disease at all, and it's available for about $250. Things like this are real today. The thing on the right, completely fictional, from the movie Passengers. They're already working on that. What is that called? It's called the auto doc. It will do almost everything necessary to manage a patient autonomously, without intervention from a human being. They're already trying to work on these things. So I won't go through a whole bunch of this. I will just say that bottom picture on the left is not Scarlett Johansson. It is the complete robotic replacement of Scarlett Johansson that was created to create his perfect replica of it. I know a couple people, when I showed this yesterday, said, where can I order one? I said, we're not in that business. Maybe Apollo Health wants to do this as a side business, but not us. No, thank you. I won't go into some of the rest of these, but I will show you this last one on here. Oop. This last one on here, right there. Why is it not staying up? There is Junobo. It's a robotic, fully emotion-based dog. It's being delivered to my house on December 10th, I think. So I'm actually going to play with it. My wife has already said it will never be in the house without me there. So she believes the dog will attack her and kill her or shoot laser beams out of its eyes or something of that factor. So we'll see how that all works out. So I'll leave you with this. Are we ready to let go of the wheel? No different than I could never think of being in a robotic car, an auto car. Never mind the fact that it even freaked me out where there was a person that could take over. Are we really ready to let go? So think about this quote, if it can come up. So what did you do before self-driving cars? We just drove them ourselves. Wow, no one died that way? Oh no, millions of people died that way. It's funny to even think about the quote. It's kind of humorous, right? Except let's think about the medical equivalent of that, a healthcare equivalent of that. So what did we do before healthcare robots? We just took care of people ourselves. Wow, no one died or got injured that way? Oh no, millions of people died and got injured. Well, now it's not so funny. And we've got some work to do as you think about this. If we don't control AI, if we don't control where the robots go, we will be controlled by it and be replaced. At least that's a theory. So we've got an opportunity to massively improve healthcare, to innovate at paces like we've never thought we could before. But the reality is, it's on us now. The curve is actually on the steep climb right now, and we have to take control of it. So thanks for letting me share.